G'day, it's Brett here from BWCflies. In today's session, we're going to tie the Sooty popper, which is for the self-tying kit that's available from BCF at Townsville. So first of all, thanks very much to the people that have been into the store and bought that kit. And then in the kit, you would have received some of the following gear, which is enough to tie 5 of these flies. And then you also get the fly that I tie as the example. So we'll run through how to use each of these materials in the tying of this particular pattern. So in the kit, you would have got a portion of craft fur, some Grizzly Hackles in the chartreuse black, 2 colours of silicone rubber legs, some small popper heads, some eyes to suit those heads, some Gamakatsu hooks, and you would have also received a spool of fluorescent chartreuse thread in the 210 denier size. So some of the equipment that you'll need to complete the fly, in addition to those, is you're obviously going to need a bobbin holder. You'll need a good quality pair of scissors. You will need a sharp, clean bodkin for this one because we need to stick that through the head a couple of times. And if you have these as part of your tying equipment, a set of Hackle pliers certainly makes the job a bit easier, okay? And some super glue as well, which should be on your bench as part of your kit. So I've put the hook inside of the vise. The shank is nice and horizontal from a working area. And we're going to apply a base of thread starting right behind the hook eye. And we're going to cover up the full flat section of that shank and stop before it starts to bend. Okay. And we're just going to take this backwards a little bit, and we're going to be working from the hook point back, just in that little area there. Okay, so the first step is to take a small clump of the craft fur from the patch that you got in the kit. Just clip that off. I normally pull the butt sections out and then hold what's left. I take the tips away from the butts and then just realign the tips. So I end up with a clump of craft fur that's about yay big. There's not too much there, about half a match to a match worth of thickness. Cut them off, clean that up. We're going to tie them in so they're approximately 2 shank lengths. Okay, of craft fur hanging over the rear of the bend of the hook. We're going to bind those in with some nice foam wraps. We'll cut that. We'll just trim those butt sections out and clean them up with a little bit of thread. Okay, the next section, or the next step, is to attach your Grizzly Hackle. All right. So I've removed the fluff from the bottom of that feather. So I have a nice clean amount of barbell just there. We're just going to tie that in on the side, like so. There's a few little preparation pieces of work that you can do to make tying this fly a little bit more efficient. So the first one is, what I have done is I've actually created a pilot hole through the center of the popper head. And what I like to do here is to work out how much feather space I've got to work with. So I actually jam that popper head on, ensuring that I've got enough clearance of the hook eye in this area at the front so I can tie my leader on. And then I can see that I have from where the feather is tied in to the back of the popper head to be working with this feather as we wrap it forward. Okay. So at this stage, can take my pop head back off. We're then going to apply the hackle pliers, and we're actually going to palmer this feather forward. And as I do that, I'm going to pull those barbells backwards. And what I'm doing here is actually laying the stem of the feather side by side. Okay, just like so, until we've covered up that little area that we knew that we could work with. We're just about there, probably one more, and then that's enough. So we'll go underneath of the feather and tie that off, just like so. 2, 3, 4 wraps. And then with your scissor points, stay away from your thread. We're just going to clip that off like so. And get rid of those little stragglers. Okay. At this area, we need to build a nice flat platform for that popper head to bond onto. So we're going to do that with the thread. Just keeping it nice and firm, building up a nice level area. Just like so. We're almost done. Then on top of that, we're going to apply some super glue. Okay, so a couple of whip finishes underneath. That will just lock all of that thread in. It doesn't really matter whereabouts along that shank that you do that, but it's important that you probably do 2. Then with your super glue, we actually just want to put a bit of a coating over the top of that. Not too much, not so that it's running off everywhere. So just a nice amount like so. And then we're going to slide that popper head into position. Doesn't matter if you have a little bit of excess at the back that runs into the feather, it's going to help strengthen that fly. And before that sets, take the popper out of the vise and make sure that that head is nice and square to the hook shank, okay, like so. You don't want it kicked off to the side because then it's not going to sit properly in the water. Okay, once that's done, I tend to let that sit for a little bit, let that super glue dry out, let the head bond to the thread, let any of the soaked super glue bond into the fibers in the back here. So I normally would sit that aside, okay? And what I've done is I've pre-pilot holed the leg slots on the next popper head. So with the bodkin, what you normally do is just go above the hook shank and push a pilot hole for the legs to be fed through. Just like so. Okay, that's going to make life a little bit easier for the next step. So you can see just towards the rear, above the hook shank, and just make sure that the legs are square to the back of the popper and horizontal to the water. Okay, that part's done. Then with your rubber legs, what I've done is I've taken one section of each colour, folded them in half and fed them through the eye of a needle. All right, so you should be able to grab one of those from your local craft shop. And what we're going to do is push that through. I actually use my mat to help me here. Push that popper head down and drag those legs through. Under a bit of tension, but you don't need to rip at them so they break, so just firm. And then at this point, just come around this side, I just clip those legs off, like so. Give them a bit of a stretch out, angle them up a little bit, which is what I like to do. And then from there, they're ready to go. And then the final stage is to add the eyes to the eye sockets. So we're going to pop that back in the vise. You will need a little dollop of super glue for this step as well. So only a small amount. Just going to pop a drop inside of there. Grab an eye from the little sheet. We're just going to stick that in that socket. And you can maneuver that just a little bit with your bodkin, just to make sure that it's in that socket and it's bonded down nice and firm, just like so. Any excess can be wiped off. And then repeat the process for the other side. So a little drop of super glue inside of there. Take another eye off your sheet. It can be a little bit fiddly, these little 3mm eyes. But anyway, pop it into the socket. And then with your bodkin, just give it a little bit of a push down into that super glue to make sure that it's bonded nicely to that foam head. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually, once your super glue is dried, you could actually drop a small amount of UV resin inside of there if you wanted to. That's entirely optional for this fly. If you use a good quality super glue, you should be right for those to hold in there nice and steady. Anyway, that's the tying process for the sooty popper. So pretty effective little popper for the sooties and jungle perch. Very simple to tie. Nice colorways for the streams and rivers up there. And that's it. That's available in the self-tying kit from BCF at Townsville. Thanks very much for watching. Hopefully you've got a couple of tying tips from that video, and see you next time. Thanks very much. Ta.